Hey everyone, I'm making a little video here for my non-musician friends to explain what it is that I do as a singer in a prog metal band. So let me start explaining first a little bit what I do when I do my clean singing. I think of myself as a rock singer, but I think the first thing is with regards to range, I think I'm the equivalent of a tenor, which means that my lowest notes are around a C3. I can go a little bit lower. And my highest notes are around a C5. I'm not going to do that in full voice. And obviously I can go a lot higher if I go into falsetto. Something like that. And I've done a lot of recordings with that kind of voice only. I'm not a trained opera singer, but I like the sound in some cases. Here's what it sounds like. So I can do that. I can also do what's called not clean singing. Now, a lot of people think that that voice is processed in a way, to make me sound like a monster and that it's not really me. It is really me, and I'll show you in just a second what I sound like, but I can make those sounds. Alright, let's get to it. I want to start off with a little heavier song to exemplify advanced rhythms that we use in progressive metal. You might know that most songs use a 4/4 time signature, but that some songs can use 3/3 time signatures, like waltzes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But most songs use 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have other time signatures, but what's even cooler is having multiple time signatures at the same time. And then what's even cooler is not having any time signatures at all and just playing whatever you want. So I'm just going to go ahead here and play a track, and I want you to see if you can count along to it. I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here comes the triplet slowdown. 3, 4. So I'll play it again and I'll count along with it and I'll highlight some of the things that make it sound very advanced. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what makes this sound difficult is because it has these underlying triplets that have a quintuple feel. 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. But they still have the underneath. Let's go ahead and listen to those. I've made a little MIDI track here to make it a little bit more clear exactly what's going on. When you hear the MIDI, maybe you'll understand exactly what's going on. Did that make it clearer? Well, the thing is, it's not tremendously easy to sing to this kind of stuff, but what you end up doing is trying to highlight the downbeats. And given that there is no fixed downbeat here, you try to highlight the downbeats that do exist, and so it sounds something like this. Nothingness is we find with it. and that's about it. It takes a long time to figure out exactly how to get these things to fit. And I also want to show you a little bit, I said before that that's what I actually sound like, so let's go ahead and listen to what I do sound like. This is me without the music. And you'll notice I have two dubs here, because sometimes when you make a low growl and a high growl at the same time, it sounds neat, but I don't have any effects. I do have, removing S sounds, some equalizer, and I have the distortion, so I'll just go ahead and remove the distortion. The distortion makes it sound sort of like an old radio, but it doesn't really change the sound too much. So I'll turn off the distortion and let you hear what it sounds like just by itself.
As nothingness is reified with each gonna lay oriented face broken.
So that's basically my voice.
As nothingness is...
A couple years of training, you'll get to it too. Let's take a look at harmony. Now, when it comes to harmony, there's actually two things to think about. One is which notes you put next to each other, and then the second one is where do you want to lead the listener. Now, in pop music, it's very obvious where things are headed, but in our music, it's not always so obvious. Let me give you an example. What do you think that you would sing to this music? Exactly. When I first heard that, I was a little bit jarred, but this is what we do, so let's get cracking. I have the MIDI notes here, and I want to show you. You'll recognize if you listen to it, the harmony. I'll add the drums. Okay, so that is difficult because what we're used to is listening perhaps to the lowest note and treating that as our harmonic root. Well, it doesn't work in this case. The loudest note isn't really the lowest note, first of all. And secondly, if we listen to it closely, we'll find that the lowest notes are basically just rising chromatically, meaning there's no structure. It's just one note after the other. And, it's like sort of like smashing the piano with your whole arm. It doesn't mean anything. Where's that headed? That's not headed anywhere. But if you really listen to all the notes that are included here, you will find some common notes that sound across everything. And I've sort of collapsed the chords here into what's important. That is one note that sort of persists across all of this, and from there you can sort of improvise and connect things together. So this makes it difficult again because this is the next part. Nothing follows from this. So that would be a nice note to end on right there. So let's go back and listen to how it actually sounded like after I recorded. And you'll probably recognize, based on the notes that I picked, exactly what I put down and recorded. I mean, when you hear it like that, you're like, of course it's supposed to be that way. The notes make sense. They follow each other naturally. But it wasn't a given. That's not the way they came. And somebody had to write that. And now when you hear it, you think it makes sense. And that was the point. So that's what's fun about writing music. Now, let's talk about lyrics. Okay, so I skipped quite a lot when it comes to both the rhythm and the harmony of the stuff that we work on. I don't know if you noticed, but in that last song there was a whole orchestra that I just sort of glossed over. But I want to make a quick mention about music theory, which is, although it's useful in many circumstances, for us it's not quite as useful just because, even naming a chord is usually a function of the root note. And if you're writing something that has such huge chords and is super chromatic, it's not even clear what the root note is. It depends on who you're asking. So a lot of times, I don't know, I guess we've found a language that works for each other. But music theory is not something that comes up in conversation a lot in the stuff that we do. So let's talk about lyrics. Here are the lyrics to one of the songs that I just showed you, Fog of Words, and these lyrics are about the ambiguity of human language. I know a lot of singers put a lot of thought into their lyrics, and I do as well. It's not super important to me that everybody understands them, but I want to illustrate here a little bit that I do put a lot of thought into it. So let me give an example of just a little section here. Again, the ambiguity of human language. So this first section here is, as nothingness is reified with each, is an example of a word, nothing, or no one, that we treat as if it were a thing sometimes, and sometimes as a function in a sentence. Let me give you an example. Well, I think I'm okay at singing. I mean, I'm better than nobody, right? But nobody is better than God at singing. But that must mean I'm better than God at singing. So you see what I did there is that I used the word nobody in two very different ways, but it looks like I used them in the same way. And that's, just one example of how human language can very easily be ambiguous in circumstances like that. And I think that happens because we use the word to describe the sentence itself, and we use the word to describe something outside the sentence. But it's not clear from the way we use the word which of the two we're doing. And I've dubbed that a Cantor-like argument, because Georg Cantor did a similar thing in mathematics, which is why I talk about, and he used something called diagonalization. So, diagonally oriented phrase, and the song is called Fog of Words, a play on fog of war. So, forming clouds of inconsistency laced by the winding plumes of irony. This is what lyrics usually look like. This is not the way I write my lyrics. I write in blank verse, and blank verse is a classic way of writing poetry, where you have to stress every other syllable in a specific way. You have to do like this: da-dum, 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 5 times per row. The second syllable is stressed. It starts with an unstressed syllable, ends with a stressed syllable. You might recognize it from Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer day? And if you stress them incorrectly, it doesn't sound right. So, shall I compare thee to a summer day? That doesn't sound right. When you use this system, it really flows nicely, and you'll hear that the poem is built correctly. So if I scroll down here a little bit, you'll see that I have built these lyrics using this system. As nothingness is reified with each diagonally oriented phrase, through Cantor's lens we finally can see the forming clouds of inconsistency laced by the winding plumes of irony. So in sonnets, which is what Shakespeare did, he would do something called quatrains, which is where you have 4 lines and every other line rhymes. I do some rhyming sometimes, but mostly I write in blank verse, which means there's no rhymes, and that's more in the style of John Milton and other more epic type poem writers. So, I mean, you'll notice that this poem here is a single sentence. So this whole thing is one sentence, and you'll see the iambic structure in it while you read it. As nothingness is reified with each diagonally oriented phrase, through Cantor's lens we finally can see the forming clouds of inconsistency, laced by the winding plumes of irony. It's very difficult to plan the syllables this way so that everything fits, but it's another challenge that I really enjoy, and I think it makes the lyrics more fun. Nobody will ever see it, and it's my happiness in life to play with this kind of stuff all day. I think some people like our music, but even if no one does, I don't care. See you around.